I think I am live. Let me check. I am having issues. Let me see. Am I live? I am. Whoo, Lordy. So I was trying. I said I was gonna. I posted an event and said I was gonna go live at 8:30, and then I couldn't get on because last week when I did it, I used the same software, Ecamm, but a lot of people were saying that I was going in and out. So I said I'm just gonna go directly via Facebook. Try to do it at 8:30. Try to do it at 8:45. You see what happened. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go directly with Facebook because I can't see the comments using the software that I'm using now. So put in the chat. Well, I say put in the chat. I still want you to put in the comments where you're from. And if you're watching it on the replay, put replay and then where you're from. And I'm not going to be long because I just wanted to share something that a parent had asked me last week. And I've been thinking about it all week. And so then I said I was going to go live. I drove 5 hours today. So I was still determined that I wanted to go live just to share. And the title you see is, I think, what did I title it? How greatness can help you empower your kids to make good choices or something like that. And I just wanted to share you. One of the reasons I wanted to do this live is because it's really difficult in a 60-second reel for me to really explain a lot of what I do in the classroom. So for those of you who are new here, you haven't heard me on a live before, I'm Jackie Bruton. I have my websites there. I have, and I go into the schools. Somebody asked me, and I talk to teens about a lot of different things, motivational speakers, so I talk about a lot of things. Probably 80% of the time I'm talking about sex. And I am talking to teens about why it's not a good idea for them to have sex. And a parent asked me in one of the reels I did last week, she said, how are you able to get teens to stop having sex once they've started having sex? Because they've already opened up that door. And one of the things that I said to her in the comment was, I help them come to the conclusion themselves that that's not the best choice based on them having dreams and goals. So I help them find a yes, something that they say, I want this thing so badly that I'm not going to let anybody or anything keep me from getting it. And then I saw a post by Jason Wilson. I'm trying to see if I remember it exactly. It says, when a boy, because he has a program for boys, when a boy knows the reason for his existence, he won't jeopardize that existence. And I was like, wow, that's so much more powerful than what I said, but it's the same thing. But I think one of the things that we have found in our culture is that kids will live up or down to our expectations. And I think many people in my generation or older, or even younger than me, but not a teenager, the expectations that we've had for kids are pretty low. And so we expect that they're going to make poor choices. And there's a quote that I love by John Steinbeck that says, it is the nature of man to rise to greatness if greatness is expected of him. And the key word is if greatness is expected of him. So if you're a parent, ask yourself, do I expect greatness from my child? Because it is the nature of man to rise to greatness if greatness is expected of him. And what that means is greatness is natural. Like all of this mediocrity we have in our culture, it's not even natural. What is natural is greatness. But I think in our culture, because we've lowered our expectations so, and we don't expect greatness, I think that's one of the reasons why we're not getting greatness. So one of the things that I do, and I didn't plan this, it just started happening. There are times when I'm in the class, and for some reason, this is usually a young man, that I will kind of hone in on somebody that, like, their eyes are glued on me the entire time I'm talking. It's almost like I have honey dripping from my lips. And it's like I just make a connection. And so I will usually pull that, like I said, it's usually a young man, aside on his way out the door, and I will just merely say to him, I see greatness inside of you. And there's no amount of temporary pleasure that you should allow to keep you from becoming greatness and reaching the greatness that's inside of you. And when I tell you, like when I tell them, it's like I can just see their faces light up. So then I started getting some of these comments on letters that they were writing me. And this one young man says, you told me you saw greatness in me, and I truly believe that. Another young man said, I thank you for telling me that I am destined for greatness. I will make that difference in my generation and try to change things for the better. And then he signed it, thank you for your visit. He signed it from boy destined for greatness. And I love this one. This one guy says, at the end of the second day, you moved me. As I was walking out the door, you grabbed me and said, I see greatness in you. And I've been thinking about it ever since. I was even planning to put it on my wall, and I think I will. Thank you. You're a great speaker, and I hope to see you again. And here's a story that I share sometimes that I remember. I was in Augusta, Georgia doing assemblies, and there was this young man at the top of the bleachers, and he was one of the ones that was just like honed in on me the whole time. And it was like he was the only one in the room. And so when the assembly was over, I called him down, and he thought he was in trouble. I mean, I could tell by the look on his face. He had this fear in his face, like, what did I do? So I called him over, and I said my normal spiel that I say, I just want you to know. I said, oftentimes there's one person in the class that sticks out to me, and you were that person. And I said, I said the same thing. I see greatness in you, and I just want you to know that that's what you deserve. You're capable of it. And so he said yes, and thank you for saying that, and left. So I have this second Facebook page for teenagers, because I didn't, I have a personal page, and then I have my business page, and then I have one specifically for teenagers. And I don't post on as much as I should, but I used to, go every few days. And so I went. He sent me a Facebook friend request. I answered it. So a day or so later, it might have been that same night, like I went, and he was in my feed, and he said, there was a speaker that came to my school today to do an assembly. And she called me to the side after the assembly, and she told me that there's usually one person that stands out to her. I mean, he repeated my words verbatim. There's usually one person that stands out to her, and I was that person. And she told me that she saw greatness in me. And he said, now that I know it, I'm going to start acting like it. And when I read that, I was like, oh my goodness, it sent chills down my spine. And I'm like, wow, that is all it took. And so I think 2 or 3 weeks later, like I happened to be back on my team page, and he had made another post, and he posted about, he was at church that Sunday, and the minister that was there, like, called him up and said these things, and basically said the same thing, similar thing that I said about there was greatness inside of him, blah, 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 blah. And so I commented, and I was like, wow, that's amazing that you got confirmation. And he commented back and says, yeah, Miss Jackie, but it all started with you. And it made me think, how many times do we see teenagers or children, not even a teenager, they could be younger than that, whether they're our own child or whether it's just somebody like a clerk in a store, whether it's somebody at a fast food restaurant. Like, we never know the power of us just speaking life into teenagers or young people and telling them what we see and not what we don't see. And oftentimes that's all we focus on is what they're not. And we talk about how the negative things about a generation instead of us talking about what we see. And sometimes we have to speak those things that are not as though they are. So and this applies to your kids. So even if you haven't seen those things in your child, but if you know they have the potential and you know that they were created to be that person, that's what they need to hear from you. They don't need to hear the negative things from you about all the things they're doing wrong. What will serve them better, and I think help them make better choices, is for them to hear what you want to see and what you do see. And I remember this woman told me that her son was making horrible choices. And she said, I decided to speak life. And I would, every time he would leave the house, I would say, okay, see you later, man of God, or mighty man of God, mighty man of valor. I mean, just all of these things. Well, based on the physical, like what she was seeing every day, no one would ever have like identified him with those things that she was calling him. But eventually he became the very thing that she called forth out of him. I just think that, we've got to start speaking the things to our kids and to the young people in our life that we want to see, even if we don't see them right now, but speak life. I remember reading a letter from a young lady, and she's like, words have power. And she said, thank you for speaking life into us. And let me read you a couple of other letters. Well, I know I was doing a virtual assembly during the pandemic. And one of the young men, this is middle school, he asked me, how do you stay motivated? And right after I answered, another student wrote the following comment in the chat. He says, you are really motivational to me, and you give me the will to strive for greatness. Like, nobody is going to become something that they keep hearing they're not every day. I even had a young lady tell me that her mom kept thinking that she was sexually active. And she said, I wasn't sexually active. I was still a virgin. But my mom didn't trust me. And my mom kept saying, I know you're having sex. I know what you're doing, whatever. And she said, eventually, I said, if she's going to expect that and accuse me of that anyway, I might as well do it. So she lived down to her mom's expectations versus living up to what her mom could have expected. Like, I believe that she has that she's capable of having discipline and self-control, and that she's not having sex. And then I had this other one that I wanted to read. So in 2018, I had a young lady who reached out to me on Facebook, and I had spoken at her church in 2005, so 13 years earlier. She was 12 at the time that I spoke at her church, and she came to the event. So here, 13 years later, so what does that make her 12, 13, 25 years old? She sends me this note, and I don't even remember doing this, but she sends me a picture. I do vaguely remember doing it. So it was before I wrote my book, but I think I wrote for every girl that came to this event, it was an event just for girls, I wrote them a card, and I just wrote like words of encouragement. And I wrote, what I expected from them and what I saw in them. And so she had kept that card. 13 years later, she still had it at 25 years old. She says, you wrote this to me in 2005, and I have kept it since, in remembering the woman I am and who I am in God. I am destined for greatness. I wish it still had your signature on it, but it wore off throughout the years of me moving. Nevertheless, I am still blessed and honored. Thank you for being you and reaching the young men and women that you have reached. You are one of the many women who I've looked up to all my life. Well, at least since 2005 when I met you. I want to reach women as you have as well. You are definitely a vessel of God and a blessing to many such as myself. God bless you. Like, you want to know why I do what I do? Like, as frustrating as it can be sometimes, that's why I do what I do. So here, like 13 years later, and ironically, so this is in 2018. This young lady got married in 2022. She sent me an invitation to her wedding. Like, this is somebody who heard me speak when she was 12 years old at an event at her church. That kind of stuff just blows me away. So this guy says, I'm trying to think, I had another letter. So there's another quote by Michelangelo, and it says, the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. And I tell kids all the time, sometimes I'll read that quote to them in class and I'll say, I have a high goal. Like, I know that I'm asking a lot of you with the culture that you're swimming in. I'm asking a lot of you when I ask you to consider like not having sex. I said, but the only reason I asked that is because I believe you can do it. Like, I believe you can do it. And I said, am I crazy enough to think that everybody in here is not going to have sex? And I said, no. But I'm not going to change my goal and lower it to, I just don't want you to get pregnant, or I don't want you to get somebody pregnant. Because even if you don't get pregnant or you don't get somebody pregnant, you can still get an STD. You can still have emotional consequences. I said, so to me, asking you to make choices where you don't experience a pregnancy or get an STD, or well, those are low goals. My goal is that you not have sex for a host of reasons. And I do it because I believe in you. And then I started getting letters from students all the time saying, I believe you're the last adult on earth that has faith in us, that believes that we have discipline, we can have discipline and self-control, and that we're not hormone driven, like out of control teenagers. I'm telling y'all, it has amazed me, the response that I get from them. But I think part of it is they want to be challenged. They want somebody to expect greatness from them. Let me see if there's anything else. I think that's all that I had. I've been thinking about that ever since the woman asked, like, how do you get this response from teenagers? And there are a lot of other things that I do as well. But we've got to raise our standards. We've got to raise our expectations of teenagers, of your kids, of your younger kids, and we have to speak life in them. We have to speak those things that we may not see yet. We have to speak them by faith and tell them what they are, not what they're not. And so, I've had boys who've said, my mom hates my dad, and she always says stuff like, you're going to be just like your dad. You're going to be, all the negative stuff. And so what does that do to his self-esteem and to his feeling of worth when he's hearing all of these negative things of, and like guys have said, I know my mom hates my dad. And when she tells me, oh, you're just like your dad, he said, that makes me wonder, then do you hate me too? Okay, I've had a long day. So unfortunately, like I said, I couldn't go live directly so I could see your comments if they're there and I could respond to them because I had to go through this streaming software again. I'm going to figure this thing out about going live. But let me know if this is valuable and if you want me to do more of these. And if so, like on what topic. I can't make any commitments because school's getting ready to start back. And so once school starts back, like my schedule just gets a lot more hectic. I think that's it. If you're watching this on a replay, please type replay and put your city, state, country where you're watching from. It's just good for me to know the reach. Kind of helps me to know that it's needed and that I need to keep going. If you're watching this and you want your kid, like I had somebody the other day say, where are you speaking again publicly where I can bring my daughter to hear you speak? I said, well, right now I'm getting ready to go back into schools and they're not open to the public. I said, but much of what I say, you can like purchase my book or one of my master classes. I have both for boys and for girls, and my website is up there, and my online academy is listed up there as well. So make sure you share this with any other parents that you think would benefit. And I hope you have a great evening. I wish I could have done it so I could have responded to your comments if you're making any, but I can't see them with this. But until next time, have a great evening. I didn't plan for it to go this long. Sorry. I'm long-winded.